Ladies and gentlemen, so we started off and we did some of those solving using elimination. So hopefully you kind of got a little bit of a start on that stuff, because now we're going to move forward and we're going to go to ones that are probably a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to go through the steps. Now I always suggest writing the steps down, maybe not word for word, but writing some of them down just in case you get stuck. You can reference your steps, okay? So first thing you're going to do is to put both equations into standard form. All right, then you're going to multiply one or both equations by a number so the variable has opposite coefficients. Now that's what we did on the last ones before the first part ended, when we multiplied by a -1, so we got those opposite symbols. Okay, then you are going to add the two equations together, and if you've done it right, you should have some variables that cancel. Okay, and then you're going to substitute that value into one of the equations and solve for the other variable. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 1. So taking a look at number 1, I noticed that my x's have the same coefficient, which is 1, but they don't have opposite signs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply that bottom one by a -1. So I'm going to change all my signs, and now I can ignore this version and I can go ahead and add down my columns. Well, x minus x is going to cancel out. 2y minus y is just going to be y, and then 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. Okay, so that's what my y is equal to. So now I need to get my x, so I can plug it back in for either x in any of those equations. Let's just plug it into the first one. So I'm going to keep everything in the first one the same, except I'm going to take out the y and put a 4 in instead, and then you get a 10. So then I get x plus 8 is equal to 10. So then I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and I get that x is equal to 2. So now I know my point, so I'm going to write it out as a point, first my x, then my y. So my answer is the point 2, 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at this next one. So what I notice is that I don't have a common number for any of the letters. So I'm going to have to create that common number. What I do notice, though, is that my y just has a 1 with it. So what I want is the opposite of a positive 2. What's the opposite of a positive 2? Well, that's going to be -2. So how do you multiply 1 to get to -2? Well, in order to go from 1 to -2, we have to multiply by a -2. So I'm going to multiply that bottom one entirely by a -2. So when I do that, -2 times 3 is a -6x. -2 times y is going to be a -2y. And that's going to be equal to -8 times, or 8 times -2, which is a -16. Okay, so now I'm going to ignore this version, and now I have my opposite y's. So 4 minus 6 is going to give me a -2x. 8 minus 16 is going to give me a -8. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by a -2. And here, since they're both negative, that's going to become positive. So I get that x is equal to a positive 4. So now I need to plug it back in. And remember, when I do that, it doesn't matter which version I plug it back into. So I'm going to plug it back into this bottom one, since it already has a 1 with the y. So I'm going to have 3, and then instead of writing x, I'm going to put in 4, plus y is equal to, and that's going to be 8. So then I have 12 minus y is equal to 8. So then I need to just subtract 12 from both sides. 8 minus 12 is equal to a -4. So then we need to write that out as a point. First my x, and then my y. So then I get -4 as my answer for number 2. Now, let's take a look at number 3. So we don't have the same number anywhere, but I do notice that my y's have opposite coefficients. So I have a 10 and I have a 3. So I need to ask myself, how can I take 3 and 10 and make them be the same number? What's the smallest number they both multiply to? And that smallest number is 30. So what do I need to multiply 3 by to get to 30? Well, I need to multiply it by 10. So I'm going to multiply that entire top equation by 10. And what do I need to multiply 10 by to get to 30? Well, I need to multiply it by 3. So now I'm going to go ahead and distribute that into everything. So I'm going to have 20x minus 30y is equal to 110. And then I'm going to have 30x plus 30y is equal to 3 times 30, which is 90, okay? So now I can go ahead and I can add down the columns because my y's will cancel out. So 20x plus 30x is going to give me 50x, and then 110 plus 190 is going to give me 200. So I'm going to divide both sides by 50, and I end up getting that x is equal to, and I'm just going to write that over here, so x is equal to 4. So now what we need to do is we need to find one of these to plug it back into. So let's just plug it back into the first one. So I'm going to have 2 times 4 minus 3y is equal to 11. So then I have 8, if I could write, minus 3y is equal to 11. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So I get negative 3y is equal to 11 minus 8, which is 3. Divide both sides by a negative 3, and over here I get that y is equal to a negative 1. So then my point here is going to be 4, negative 1. So that's my answer for number 3. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 4. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a look at number 4. So first thing I notice is that we don't have opposites anywhere. Ooh, I thought that would let me move it, but no. Whee! That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm just going to do the work for number 4 over here since that is being a poop. Okay, so I see that I have 4 and 12, and something that I'm thinking is, okay, I can very easily multiply something by 4 to get 12. In fact, I can multiply 4 by 3. And that's going to give me 12. Okay, so now I have the same number, but what I don't have is opposite signs, okay? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply a negative 3, and that's going to give me that positive 12 that I need to cancel it out. So that top equation is going to become negative 15x plus 12y, and then negative 3 times 30 is going to be a negative 90. And then here I'm going to have 12x minus 12y is equal to 96, okay? So negative 15x plus 12x is negative 3x. So those are going to cancel. Negative 90 plus 96 is going to give me 6. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I get that x is equal to negative 2. So now I know that's what x is. So I need to pick one of these, and I need to solve it to get my y. So let's just do that top equation on the other side. So I'm going to have 5 times negative 2 minus 4y is equal to 30. Okay, so then I'm going to get a negative 10 minus 4y is equal to 30. Then I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So then I get negative 4y is equal to 40. Divide both sides by negative 4, and I end up getting that y is equal to a negative 10. So then my answer is a negative 2 and a negative 10. So that's my final answer for number 4. Now let's take a look at number 5. So first thing we need to do on number 5 is I notice that the ends have opposite signs already. So I just want to make them have the same number. So what's the smallest number that 5 and 3 multiply to? Well, that's going to be 15. So I'm going to multiply this top one by 3 and this bottom one by 5. So distributing in that 3, I'm going to get 30m minus 15n is equal to 15. On the bottom, I'm going to get 15m minus 15n is equal to 5 times 24, which is 120. So then I'm going to add down the columns, okay? 30 plus 15 is going to give me 45m. My 15s are going to cancel out. That should have been a plus. So my 15s are going to cancel out. And then 15 plus 120 is going to give me 135. Divide both sides by 45. And then I end up getting that m is equal to 5. So now I need to plug back in to solve for my y. So I'm going to go ahead, or sorry, for my n. So I'm going to plug it into this second one here. So I'm going to have 3. Now instead of having the m there, I'm going to put the 5. Then the rest of the equation is going to stay the exact same, and I'm going to solve it for 24. or for 24, for n. So then I'm going to have 15 here minus 3n is equal to 24. Okay, subtract 15 from both sides, and I get negative 3n is equal to 24, 9. Divide both sides by a negative 3, and then I'm going to end up getting that n is equal to a negative 3. So then my point, I'm going to write my m and then my n. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look now at number 6. So number 6 is a pretty challenging one just because it's really hard to think of numbers that they both go into. Now, if you can't think of a number that they both go into, you do have another option, and that would be just to multiply by each equation by what's on the bottom. So, for example, that'd be multiplying this one by 9 and this one by 21. Now, when you do that, you get really big numbers, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're actually just going to try and think of a number they both multiply to. Well, 9 and 21 actually both multiply to 63. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this one by 3, because 3 times 21 is 63. And I'm going to multiply this one by 7, because negative 9 times 7 is a negative 63. So that way I can cancel out those y's. So then what I'm going to get here is I'm going to have 42x plus 63y is equal to 14 times 3, which is 42. Just let me draw in blue. Okay, so then I'm going to multiply in that 7, so I'm going to get 21x minus 63y is equal to a negative 306. Okay, and so sometimes it's always good to check the math that I'm doing because sometimes I mess up. Oh, see, I messed up there. This should be a negative 357. See, this is why you check the math along with me. So now we're going to go ahead and add down the columns. So 42 plus 21, that's going to give me 63. Then that's going to be equal to 42 minus 357, which is going to give me 315. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 63. And when I do that, I end up getting that x is equal to a negative 5. So now I know that that's what x is equal to, so I can plug it into any equation. Let's just plug it into this second equation here. So then I'm going to do 3 times a negative 5. So I took the x out and I put the negative 5 in instead. And then the rest of that equation is going to stay the same. Okay, then 3 times a negative 5 is a negative 15 minus 9y is equal to a negative 51. So then I'm going to add 15 to both sides. And then I'm going to get a negative 9y is equal to a negative 36. Divide both sides by a negative 9. And I get that y is equal to a positive 4 because a negative divided by a negative cancels out. So then our answer is negative 5, 4. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. It says Dante spent $11.25 on 3 new and 4 old comic books. So I'm going to let X represent the price of the new comic books and Y represent the price of the old. Samantha spent $15.75 on 10 old and 3 new ones. Write a system of equation that represents the amount of money each person spends on comic books. So Dante bought 3 new at price X and 4 old at price Y, and that was equal to $11.25. Okay? Then Samantha she bought 3 new ones at price X. They tried to change the order and confuse you, and 10 old ones at price Y, and that was equal to $15.75. So now I see that I have 3x on the top and on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just multiply this bottom one by a negative 1. So when I do that, I get negative 3x minus 10y is equal to a negative 15.75. So now I'm going to go ahead and add down the columns. Okay, so 3x plus 3x, that's going to cancel. 4y minus 10y is going to give me a negative 6y. And then I'm going to have 1125 minus 1575, which is going to give me a negative 4.5. So now I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 6. And then I get that y is equal to 0.75 for the old comic book. So I need to make sure I note that that's for the old. So now I need to get for the new comic book. So I'm just going to plug it in to this guy right here. So I have 3x plus, now instead of writing y, I'm going to write 0.75 times 4, and that's going to be equal to 1125. Okay, so then I'm going to get 3x. 4 times 0.75 is going to give me 3. And that's going to be equal to 1125. So then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get that 3x is equal to 825. Divide both sides by 3, and I get that x is equal to $2.75, and that's for new comic books. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the next word problem. It says that Amy is walking in a straight path that can be represented by the equation negative 2x plus y is equal to 3. Kendra is walking in a straight path that's by the equation 3y is equal to 6x plus 6, and then it wants to know when they will be walking at the same point. Well, in order for us to use elimination, it has to be in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this 6x over. So I have negative 6x plus 3y is equal to 6. And I'm not going to worry about that negative 6x because I'm going to take care of it when I do the elimination anyway. Okay, so I see that this y here has a 1 with it, so that makes it the easiest to multiply by. So I need to think of what's the opposite of a positive 3, and that's negative 3. So what do I need to multiply this by? I'm going to have to multiply it by a negative 3. So then I'm going to get negative 6x minus 3y is equal to a negative 9. So now I'm going to do this version. Okay, so this is going to cancel out to a positive because I did negative 3 times negative 2. Well, those guys are going to cancel out, and those guys are going to cancel out. So I actually end up with 0 over this side with all of them canceling out. Then I have 6 minus 9 is equal to negative 3. Now, is that a true statement? Is 0 ever going to equal negative 3? No. Okay, so this isn't a case where it works out that we have no solution because this is not a true statement. So think about those two lines running parallel together. This is the algebraic version of it. Okay, so that means they're not going to meet each other at all. There is no meeting spot because there's no solution. Taking a look at this last one, it says a shipment of TVs weighing 30 pounds each and others weighing 50 pounds each has a total of 880 pounds. So for every X TV I have, or X 30-pound TV I have, it's, well, 30 pounds. For every Y 50-pound TV I have, it's 50 pounds. And that's going to be equal to 880 pounds. And it says that there's 20 TVs altogether. So when we do X plus Y, that needs to be 20. So now I need to do some solving by elimination. So I see that X. So what I'm going to do, since it's just an X, I want it to be the opposite of 30. So since it's a positive 30, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this bottom one by a negative 30. So then I'm going to get negative 30X minus 30Y is equal to a negative 600. So now I can go ahead and I can simplify this out. So I'm going to add 30X minus 30X. That's going to cancel. 50y minus 30y is 20y. And then 880 minus 600 is going to give me 280. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 20, and I end up getting that y is equal to 14, and that's going to be the 50-pound TVs. So now I need to get how many 30-pound TVs I have. So I'm going to plug it back into this guy right here, okay? So when I do that, I know that X plus 14 needs to equal 20. So I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides, and then I end up getting X is equal to 6. So there's 6 30-pound TVs. Okay, so that concludes your note video for today. If you have questions going through this stuff, definitely let me know. Thanks for listening.